Hello, 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 and thank you for tuning in once again to Riding the Wave. You are listening to the Urban Surfer Glenn T. And for those of you that want to listen to Riding the Wave, I am featured on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, SoundCloud, YouTube, Spreaker, and Spotify. More venues to come. Website coming soon for certain. If you guys want to contact me in the meantime, I do have Facebook, Twitter, and Gmail. My Facebook is rtw.podcast. Twitter is Glenn_town, and Gmail is ridingthewave.podcast@gmail.com. So how is everybody out there so far? This February is flying past me. I know it's certainly feeling that way. Hopefully, it's not going so fast for you guys, and you guys are getting to enjoy a little bit so far. Just hoping everybody is getting to where you're going safely, staying in your own lanes, and just thinking about some of the things that we say on this show. Again, my mission is only to change one mind a day in a positive way. If I've done so, wonderful. If not, I'm going back to the drawing board. But these perceptions and opinions are my own. These are my realities. Not trying to push anything off on anybody, but if it makes sense to you, embrace it. Which brings me to the topic today. Today's topic is sink or swim. A little bit general there, but kind of just want to touch basis with this topic here, sink or swim. We hear it everywhere. We hear it in school. We hear it at work. We hear it in our daily lives, right? It's just basically facing the challenges or failing the challenges, right? Sink or swim, right? So what do you guys think about that? Suggestions, questions, comments? I know, again, this can be kind of broad, but just want to touch bases on it, break the ice, so to speak, and just get some information out there, get you guys to think in a certain way, right? So in the terms of sinking or swimming, when are you going to do it yourself? That's a good question to start off with, right? Because this is the beginning of sinking or swim, right? Either we're going to do it ourselves, or we could potentially leave whatever scenario it is in someone else's hands where they can either pass or fail and you just going along with the ride. Me, preferably, I like to do things myself. I am a swimmer in that regard. Definitely won't allow myself to sink. Life is too short, and we just want to get the best options we can in life, right? At least that's what I'm hoping for. So when are you going to do it yourself? Right? I know there's a lot of slow starters out there, and that's not just with everything or with everyone, but sometimes you just need to hear that motivating word, that push, something to that effect, right? So just want to know, when are you going to do it yourself, right? Sometimes it takes something drastic to get things done yourself. Things like death and things like incarceration, health challenges, big drastic changes to make you do things yourself. And what do you guys feel about that? That's a good motivating force, right? Sometimes we're just forced to do something. I can see how that can be motivation, right? What about the brave, right? When are you going to do something yourself? Doesn't it take a little courage? It takes a little courage to do that. So you want to be brave. Sometimes it takes a little drastic to get you that push, but sometimes the courage is just enough to be the catalyst to something new, right? Or something that you don't have to depend on with anybody. And that's just the whole case, right? Sinking or swimming, it's just being able to hold yourself down. Life can be a challenge. We all know that we can hold each other's hands and make things better for each other, but sometimes those hands are not there. Those shoulders to lean on are not there. There's no resources. There's no crutch. There's no one there but you. And a lot of times people fall by the wayside just given that circumstance. So when are you going to do it yourself? Right? How many people still live with their parents at a grown age? Not disrespecting anybody. Sometimes people just not, they just don't feel like leaving their home, leaving their parents' home. It's safe. It's stable. But it certainly takes a lot of courage to do that, right? Especially when you're living free, even if you're helping out. It just takes a lot of courage, to leave your parents' house for some. Others are running out the door. I love my mother, but she didn't have that problem with my sister and I. We were both out the door at that ripe age, right? Just moving right along, though. What makes people stay in their parents' home, right? I mean, I even have family members right now that are my age and older, and they just won't leave their parents' house, their relatives' house, and it's just want to know why. When are you going to make that initiative to be on your own? Hopefully it doesn't take anything drastic, but it certainly requires some courage. So it seems like those are kind of the catalysts on really pushing yourself for those people who are hard starters. Usually requires something drastic, usually requires a little bit of courage. I would certainly say one or the other must apply if you haven't left your parents' house by now. You definitely would need some courage. Hopefully nothing drastic would happen. But what about those relationships that you're in, right? Those dead-end relationships. You know they're not going anywhere, but the money's right. Right? Or at least it's decent enough that you can tolerate some stuff. First and foremost, I just feel there's a problem with that. But I know quite a few people may disagree. So I just want to ask the question, why aren't you swimming in that scenario? Because you're sinking. You know, you're staying in a relationship that you probably don't want to be in, but you see some short-term benefit, right? I mean, are you scared that you're not going to know how to survive without that extra income, that passive income? It's really not passive. I mean, you're actually working for it. I mean, does something drastic have to happen? Again, these are just, looks like just the acid test on some hard start motivators, right? Got to be something drastic, or you just have to have enough courage to make that change. But when are you going to get out of that relationship, right? The money's not worth it. You know, a lot of times people are just unhappy being in those situations. And if you really look, I mean, there's signs where you people just don't belong together, but you have to see them for yourself, right? But I would certainly say that, you know, being in a relationship just for the money, it can be a form of sinking, right? It's definitely not swimming. Well, maybe in some cases it may be swimming. You know, you come from extreme poverty. There was an opportunity to marry someone above your pay grade, and now you're helping out, right? What about those people that just want some extra lunch money, or so to speak, or, you know, some new items, some new possessions? I mean, is it really worth going through the troubles? And then when you tally it up, how much of the stuff are you actually getting versus how much you're actually earning? So you guys need to grow a little courage. Hopefully nothing drastic comes along, you know. And for those people that are already single, right? And again, this is just some topics. It's not just all inclusive, but these are just some examples of sinking or swimming, right? When are you going to leave your parents' home? When are you going to get out of that relationship for money? When are you going to be able to be alone and not settle for just anything? A lot of people jump into relationships, right, with the hopes of just being taken, but they really have no sense of true happiness being with one person, or no true sense of happiness being with that particular person. But yet you may sink into a situation like that because you're afraid of being alone, and you may wind up settling. That's a big no-no. And for those of you that don't do it, don't start the practice. For those of you that do, commit yourself to these kind of activities now. This is kind of for you, right? This program is kind of for you right now. And for those who are just tuning in, this is the Urban Surfer Glenn T. You are riding a wave. Today's topic again is sink or swim, right? When are you gonna do things yourself? And as we already discovered, sometimes for those people that are just hard to start, slow motivators, requires something drastic, or just a huge amount of courage to make a change, right? Otherwise, you're going to sink. You know, for those people that still live with the parents, get out. Pack a bag. Go stay away for a few days. See how it feels to be independent, right? What about those people that are in relationships for money? Stop living past your means, right? That's why we all work and we have a budget, because, you know, it's supposed to be a benefit as opposed to dependable income, right? It's like depending on child support as an adult. It just doesn't work. And what about those people that are just alone and they find themselves settling with just anything and anyone, going on 1,000 dates, marrying more than one, two, three times, just always unhappy, looking jaded at these situations because they're afraid to be alone. They're afraid to be alone. They'll settle. That's not a good idea. For you guys who are just afraid to be alone, stop. Just live it day by day. Because honestly, you're not missing anything if you're alone and happy. Why be with somebody and then be miserable as opposed to being alone and happy? The key word is happiness, right? A lot of times people get into relationships to be happy. But if you're happy already, take your time. So for those of you who are hard starters, right, I have a question for you. Are you afraid to drown? Why are you not doing things yourself? You could be completely smart, right? You could be educated. You could be financially sound, but yet, you still depend on people. You still settle, things like that. Is it because you're afraid to drown? Why aren't you leaving your parents' home? Are you afraid to drown? That relationship that you're in for the money. What is it? So these questions are just for the people that I set examples for in this program. And again, these perceptions and opinions are my own. I'm not getting it from anywhere. These are just my values. My mission is just to change one mind a day in a positive way. Again, if it doesn't come off positive, I'm sorry about that. I am a straightforward type of person, so don't get confused with my assertiveness and positiveness, okay? I would like to pose that question, are you afraid to drown? Because honestly, it is not that hard, right? The first thing you need to do is just try, right? That's the way to find out. Knowledge is power, right? But experience is the best teachers. You need to try in order to know. If you know you can live with your parents all of these years and you're already grown, probably some graying in the head and things like that, and you still live with your parents, it's safe to say that you may always have a place there. So what you need to do is just go out on your own and just try it one time. Pay a bill. Own a set of keys. Sign a lease. Let's try that out. It's not as hard as you think. Budget your money. You may not be able to go out all the time. You may not be able to eat all the things you want. You may not be able to look the way you want to look all the time. But having your own is completely rewarding. I don't know how many times or how many ways I would have to suggest that. For those people who are just afraid and they're not living with someone, a parent or something like that, because they're taking care of them. They're their caretaker or something to that effect. Totally different story. But if you're just still at home in the nest because you're afraid of responsibilities or you're afraid your lights might get turned off and things like that, how are you ever going to find out if you don't try? Go ahead and try. Go ahead and go out there, save a couple of $1,000, get yourself a nice little spot, and just figure it out as you're going forward. At least you know you got a safety net, right? What about those people in that relationship? You're getting some good money, or you think you're getting some good money, and you just can't leave. You don't love the person. You guys are not intimate with each other. It's just two people confined in one space, and there's some level of benefit there every so often. Stop settling. Just stop it now. Ask yourself, what is it that you're missing? What is it that you cannot buy? Because you certainly are not buying happiness, right? So what is it that you cannot buy if you're alone? You might be trading your happiness off for these trinkets and these material items at the end of the day. I don't know what they accumulate to, but just put them all in a pile and ask yourself if your happiness and your well-being equals that amount or more. That way you know exactly which way to go. If all of those things piling up is your happiness, then hey, you're home sweet home. But if you can look all of that stuff and say, if a fire took it right now and I escaped with my life unscathed and I'll be happy, then it's safe to say that you'll be happy without these things. Start to assess that within yourself. Get brave and stop settling. If you need some extra income, go ahead and drive a Lyft or Uber or something like that, or go get a second job or find out a way to make some passive income on the side. Write books, do some. There's plenty of things out there that you can do that'll make you some extra income, and you can just go ahead and do some of that as opposed to wasting people's time. And usury is not good, right? You don't get any benefit from usury. So what about those people that are just afraid to be alone? And again, this is not an all-inclusive list because sinking or swimming, that can be with anything, right? You get a new job, you just got to jump right in. You own a new business, you got to jump right in. There's so many things that you have to do sometimes that's sinking or swimming, that this list is just a minuscule part of what this can actually go towards. So again, this is a broad sweep, but for those people that are afraid to be alone, and they just settle for a person they might not love or a person that doesn't have the qualities that they have, stop settling. Start concentrating on yourself. Start loving yourself. If you want to know a little bit about that, you can look into my episode bank, and there's a few episodes in there you might want to listen to. Just read the titles. Aside from that, I want you to be alone for yourself and start to think about the things that you want to do. Reach your full potential. You deserve it to yourself. Now imagine if you reach your full potential, you'll be in another class with different people altogether. You won't have to settle for these people that you think you like. You'll actually be able to have the people that you truly will like, because now you have more to offer them. So how do you swim when you've been sinking for so long? Right? How do you actually start to swim again? You might be fatigued. You might be tired. Been in the water too long, it feels like. You just don't know what to do. So let me ask you, how do you begin to swim when you've been sinking for so long? Let's throw one out there. How about removing the dead weight, right? Remove those things out of your life that are causing you to sink. Is it a certain person or people? Is it where you live, the job that you do every day? What's causing you to drown? Evaluate that and remove the dead weight. That is the only way you can begin to start swimming again. Because remember, we are in this ocean called life, right? We can't get out of these waters until we're called. There's no way to do so, or at least no legitimate way, right? Until it's our time to come back to shore. So remove the dead weight. We're going to be swimming regardless. We're going to be on our surfboards regardless, right? It's time to get rid of that stuff that's just holding you back. Make your everydays a little bit easier. Maybe you're talking to the wrong people, right? The people that you talk to every day, maybe they're just no good for you. They're planting negative seeds in your head. They might be the reason why you're being held back. Sometimes when a person can't do something, they won't encourage you either, right? Start to assess these relationships that you have in your world and just see what you can remove. It may just be bad habits and all the people in your life are okay. But really start to assess and remove some of the dead weight, right? Remember, experience teaches all. Knowledge might give you power, but experience teaches you the best. Always remember that. When you've done something that caused you to sink, just keep in mind what it was so you can start to swim again and remove that from your life. And another point I just want to make, for those people that want to start to swim again, stop being afraid to depend on yourself. You have some of the best capabilities right within your own being. Stop looking at yourself like you're not the one that can bring yourself back to shore. You may be looking for help from other people, but you may be overlooking the best help of them all, which is you. If you're able to help yourself, everyone else who can assist you is just only additional help. I want you guys to just keep some of the things that I say in mind. I also want you to get to where you're going safely and stay in your lane. You have been listening to the Urban Surfer Glenn T. You have been riding the wave. I want to thank you once again. Remain productive, remain safe, and take care.